Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are testing a bunch of CFMoto's Voge Chinese motorcycles. It's basically the Chinese adventure shootout. Because of the amount of motorcycles, I had to kind of span this out to a couple of days of testing. They also didn't have like this 800 MT available the other day. So we had one day where the weather was really good and sunny, whereas today we're dealing with a lot of rain. And we are struggling, but you know, what better way to test an adventure motorcycle than in these conditions? We are testing these bikes in the rain, in the mud, in somewhat off-road conditions as well, so you don't have to. At the end of this episode, I hope I can give you a better idea of what these motorcycles behave like, what it's like to ride them, what they feel like sort of in terms of materials, if they feel like they are quality, what they offer and all that. And I hope I can help you decide on what motorcycle you should be considering out of all the motorcycles that we are testing today. Also, if it's worth kind of switching maybe over to a Chinese motorcycle from something like a KTM or even a BMW. A big shout out to CFMoto for organizing this event. A big shout out to them for letting me take out these bikes, even though, you know, the weather is like this. Obviously, the risks are a lot higher in dropping the motorcycles. Right now, we're on the 800 MT Explorer Edition, and yeah, I'm definitely enjoying the weather. I'm getting a really good tan out here. So without any further ado, welcome to Ride with Nimrod. Let's jump in.
Right then, for this Chinese adventure bike shootout, I've managed to test 6 motorcycles varying in engine capacity and overall capability. But at the end of the day, they all fall under the umbrella of adventure motorcycles. So the motorcycles we'll be covering are the CFMoto, also known as Ibex for Americans, 800 MT Explorer Edition, the 700 MT, the all-new 800 MTX, the Voge 525 DSX, the CFMoto 450 MT, and finally, a motorcycle from what I've learned was purpose-built to race in the Red Bull Romaniacs later this year. It's not every day you get to ride a race-ready motorcycle, so big thanks to CFMoto for trusting me with it. A few worth mentioning Chinese adventure contenders that I didn't get to include in this shootout, but I'm still keen on testing are the Voge 800 DS and especially the Covey 800X along with the smaller Covey 450 Rally. It'd be great to compare these to the 800 MTX as well as the 450 MT. But rest assured, I'll hunt them down and do reviews on those bikes in future videos, so make sure to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss out. So let's jump in, starting with the CFMoto 800 MT Explorer Edition.
Okay, CFMoto 800 MT Explorer Edition. I am both excited and not too excited, so I have mixed feelings. It's mainly to do with the fact that it's been raining all day. First impression that I get as soon as I got on the bike, the throttle is kind of a lot more responsive than on the Norden, and not in a good way. The main comparison this bike's gonna get from my end is with my own personal Norden, as well as the KTM 790 and 890.
So this is a motorcycle I'm really happy to sit on, as it's the bike I was gonna buy before finally settling on getting the Husqvarna Norden Expedition. A bit of info on CFMoto itself as a brand. It is a Chinese manufacturer based in Guangzhou, China. The company has been around since 1989, originally focused on ATVs and side-by-sides. In recent years, it has shifted into the motorcycle market, producing mid to large displacement models for both domestic and international markets. One of their biggest strategic moves was partnering with KTM. Not only are they manufacturing KTM engines under license, so bear in mind not a copy of the KTM engines, but they also co-own a joint production facility in China where both KTM and CFMoto motorcycles are built. Even the Chinese police have adopted some of their motorcycles, which does give the brand a bit of credibility. So to list some of the positives. The bike runs the licensed LCHC engine from KTM, so essentially the same engine that is used on the KTM 790 motorcycles. It comes with a giant Android-based dashboard that supports both Apple CarPlay as well as Android Auto. Quite intuitive to navigate with the controls on the handlebar, but it also has the touch feature if that makes things easier for some. Lower seating position compared to my Northern Expedition. The seat height is listed at around 825 millimeters, and I'd say it's manageable for riders from about 175 centimeters, so that would be 5'9" and up. I'm 185 centimeters, that's 6'1", and it fits me perfectly with both feet flat on the ground when stationary. Pleasant positive is the adjustable windshield, very easy to adjust manually, even on the go. Heated seat and grips, a massive bonus during colder rides. They get hot enough to truly make a difference in colder weather. It's got a 19-liter fuel tank, which offers a solid 300-400 kilometers range depending on throttle use. With 95 horsepower, it's got enough power to play with, especially in sport mode. That said, it comes with 6 ride modes affecting throttle response, traction control, as well as ABS settings. For around 10,000 euros with VAT included, it comes loaded with cruise control, tire pressure monitoring system, crash bars, a rear rack that also functions as a crash bar, auxiliary lights, and what could easily be considered a TV for a dashboard. You'd spend much more for the same on both Japanese or Euro bikes. While often called heavy by some, the 230km weight is in line with mid-size adventure bikes like the GS 800 or the KTM 790, both at 215 kilograms, as most of the extra weight comes from the earlier mentioned crash bars, rack, and other accessories. And probably the biggest positive of all is the fact that CFMoto hasn't faced the same camshaft issues that KTM has, likely due to sourcing their parts from other suppliers. So overall build quality is genuinely impressive, especially for the price tag, not to mention that you can get discounts either on the bike or gear if you do decide to buy the motorcycle. And yeah, the only sort of negatives I can mention are my complaints with the stock Michelin Anarchy tires. They perform poorly off-road, especially when wet, which I have really experienced on this test ride, almost having the bike slip out from under me.
Again, I'm sitting so comfortably on this heated seat that I don't really want to. Whoa! Okay, I'm not gonna force the issue.
Also, the 19-inch front wheel limits off-road capability. It's fine for gravel or light fire roads, but won't excite dual sport riders. I think this bike makes the most sense for riders, as I said, above 175 centimeters in height, who do a lot of touring, especially those who want to stay on paved or gravel roads and don't mind the occasional light off-road detour. Thanks to lower seat height and ride modes, it suits both experienced riders as well as new riders looking for a fully packed touring machine on a budget. With the aforementioned price tag, this motorcycle is really hard to ignore, and I'm genuinely impressed by it. Transitioning from the 800MT Explorer Edition, I took the 700MT for a spin at track days at the Transylvania Motor Ring, where Nordica Moto was also present. Even though this slightly fat cow shouldn't be anywhere near a racetrack, the bike's handling and agility surprisingly stood out, making it feel like a younger brother to the 800MT. The 693cc engine delivers 67 horsepower, which combined with its lighter frame offers a ride that's both fun and responsive. Design-wise, the 700MT looks really elegant, possibly even a lot better than the KTM 790 Adventure is based on. The ergonomics are spot on, with comfortable seat height of 800mm, making it accessible for somewhat shorter riders looking for a capable adventure bike. In terms of features, CFMoto didn't really skimp. Even though you don't get the Netflix vibe display of the 800MT, the 5-inch screen is crisp and even offers phone connectivity. Heated grips and seat, an adjustable windscreen, stock from the factory, and dual USB ports generally make this bike feel somewhat better prepared for touring than the 800MT. CFMoto's T-Box system is also present, which is a nice touch at this budget, letting you monitor the bike in real time from your phone. Suspension setup includes inverted forks up front with a decent amount of travel and a rear monoshock, both making the bike relatively off-road friendly, even though I couldn't really test that here. It also has pretty small wheels, pretty much the same as on the 800MT, making it, I guess, a bit more touring friendly rather than off-road friendly. The front end does dive during heavy braking, but this is pretty much unavoidable with most adventure bikes. Braking is handled by dual front discs and a single rear disc, also by J1, a company that was fully acquired by Brembo in 2021. So even at this price you get MotoGP level quality, all equipped with ABS of course. With a 20-liter fuel tank, the 700MT lets you cover over 400 kilometers on a full tank, which is honestly great for longer trips. Priced at €6,600 with VAT included, it gives even more bang for a buck than the 800 MT, especially when compared to Japanese and European rivals. All in all, CFMoto 700 MT turned out to be a really solid and affordable adventure bike. I was beyond surprised by what this thing could do on a track, and even more surprised by just how much it offers at this budget. Before getting on the 700 MT, I really didn't even understand why this motorcycle even existed in the first place, considering that the 800 MT was already on the market. But after having ridden it, taking a look at the price and all the things that this thing offers, considering its design as well compared to the alien wasp-looking thing that the KTM 790 has, I'd really just consider this motorcycle simply as it's got such a good price that I really wouldn't feel bad about kind of just using this motorcycle as a workhorse.
Awesome looking dashboard. Seating position is super comfortable. It feels awesome. I don't know if the quick shifter is on. You can tell that it's in standard mode. I freaking love this dashboard. Damn, this is a good looking dashboard. Oh, shifter is on. That's gonna be awesome. Oh, I'm instinctively wanting to ride on my legs standing up. But again, like the seat itself is comfortable. It's not as comfortable as on the Norden, like straight out. I gotta tell you that. But this bike, I guess, being the MTX, is a bit more rally oriented as well. So again, yeah, oh, there we go, the bumps. Woo. Ah, nice, handling it like a champ. Super comfortable standing up. Visibility is super good. The windshield is well positioned, and I know that it's adjustable. From the start, I can see some side protection as well from the wind. That's pretty awesome. And the mirrors, obviously having the shape, not the circular shape that the Norden has, these kind of deflect the wind a bit better. Okay, let's take the opportunity here. I'm happy with that.
Alright, so my helmet audio got a bit muffled at higher speeds, so I'll do my best to summarize my thoughts along with some key details that are relevant on this motorcycle. This really is the most off-road ready machine in CFMoto's adventure lineup, and yeah, I was really looking forward to riding this one. Visually, the MTX is a proper rally-style adventure bike. It's got the low, slung fuel tank similar to the KTM 790, 890 Adventure R, and the Husqvarna Norden 901 Expedition, and as a result, the weight sits low, making the whole bike feel a lot more planted, especially when riding on the pegs. This setup is ideal for off-road stability and gives the bike that Dakar-ready vibe that you'd expect from a rally machine. It runs the same 799cc parallel twin as the 800MT Explorer Edition, that LC8C engine licensed from KTM. But what really makes the MTX stand out are the off-road focused upgrades. You've got a proper 21-inch front and 18-inch rear wheel setup, spoked and tubeless straight from the factory, which is something worth highlighting because not all adventure bikes in this price range come with tubeless rims. It's also got a steering damper, which really helps on highways as well. And one of my favorites, the tire pressure monitoring system, also comes as stock straight from the factory. Suspension-wise, we're talking serious travel, 230mm at both ends, fully adjustable with chunky 48mm inverted forks up front. This thing is made to absorb rocks, ruts, and whatever else you're gonna throw at it, maybe even a few little jumps. Seat height sits at around 870mm, so a bit taller than the standard MT models. It might be a bit of a stretch for some, but nothing unusual if you've spent time on off-road bikes before. It actually feels like a motocross bike and also feels and looks as if you're sitting on the bike rather than in the bike. So less real estate in front of you when riding compared to the Explorer Edition. Fuel tank size is 22.5 liters. That's actually 3.5 liters more than what the Norden 901 Expedition carries, which is kinda wild given how massive that bike already feels. So it's significantly more than your average midweight adventure bike that gets you well over 400 kilometers of range, allowing you to do some decent adventures in remote places. The dashboard is fairly large, a 7-inch vertically oriented TFT. It's more rally style setup, kind of similar to what you would get on a T7, probably not a coincidence. It's also not as wide or Netflix friendly as the big screen on the Explorer, but it definitely gets the job done and looks great as well. You still get things like phone connectivity as well as cruise control. Yeah, cruise control on the bike at this price. It also has the T-Box system, so you can check on the bike remotely from your phone in case it gets picked up by some folk that don't have your best interest at heart. Brakes are J1, so basically Brembo under a different brand. Front and rear, with cornering, ABS and traction control, with Bosch electronics handling all of the sensors. Basically, it's got all the tech you'd expect from a bike, twice the price. It comes with 3 ride modes, rain, sport and off-road, and I can assure you that these are more than enough for most riders. Design-wise, I really like it. It's rugged but still elegant looking, and the wind protection, as I've mentioned on the bike as well, is actually really decent. The fairings, this slimmer windshield, seem to deflect air better than the Norden does, even at higher speeds. If this bike had launched earlier, I generally might have considered this instead of the Husky. The only catch, from my perspective at least, if you're coming from a different motorcycle, if you're already used to something, the cockpit layout will feel a bit different at first. The oval cockpit area takes some getting used to, but it's a small price to pay for what's easily the most off-road capable CFMoto I've ever ridden. So yeah, you want a rally-style ADV bike that doesn't cost 18,000 euros? This one's a beast at almost half the price, and it's a bike I'll do my best to do a detailed review on in the future, as it's definitely going on my short list. If you'd like to see that review, or other motorcycle and gear reviews, as well as moto content in general, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you're happy with the content, feel free to buy me a coffee or join me on my Patreon. Next up, we are jumping on a motorcycle very different from this one, the Voge 525 DSX. Now, I didn't have helmet audio for this one as I was smart enough to forget to plug in my helmet microphone cable, so this will be a full-on voiceover. Let's start with a bit about Voge as a company. Voge is a sub-brand of Longines, a major Chinese manufacturer known for producing engines for brands like BMW as well as MV Agusta. They've been stepping up their game in the adventure bike segment, and the DS525X is their entry into the midweight adventure touring category. First impressions? Honestly, I'm not particularly impressed with this motorcycle. The materials used, especially in areas like the treble clamps, feel a bit brittle. They remind me of the alloy on my old DHS Chinese bicycle, which didn't inspire much confidence. I still remember the day the handlebar broke in my hand whilst riding. However, it's worth noting that visually speaking, the alloy used here is similar to what's found on the Ducati Multistrada, so perhaps it's just my odd impression. That said, the frame seems sturdy and the welds look solid. The bike is low to the ground with fairly low ground clearance, making it accessible for shorter riders. The dashboard layout is decent and I like the shape of it. The wind protection is okay from my experience, although it could use some more high-speed testing, as I've mostly ridden this motorcycle across town, which limits my overall conclusion on the windshield. It's not too off-road friendly, but for someone looking for a brand new touring bike at this price point, it could be a good first option. I've tried some fire roads, and to my surprise, the motorcycle actually handled them quite well. I wouldn't try the Erzberg Rodeo with it, but for the occasional off-road sections on longer trips, I'd say it gets the job done. Now let's highlight some specs. The 525 DSX is powered by a 494cc liquid-cooled DOHC twin-cylinder engine, producing around 47 horsepower. It's not exactly a racehorse that'll win the Royal Ascot, but it'll definitely pull your cart easily when needed. It features a 6-speed manual transmission and a slipper clutch for smoother downshifts. The bike comes equipped with the well-known Kayaba suspension. Random fact: did you know that KYB is basically just the ticker symbol for Kayaba on the Tokyo Stock Exchange? Maybe I'm just getting old, but this was and still is the well-known name for the KYB, i.e. Kayaba. Still not sure why we call it KYB instead, but regardless of the name, it's one of the best suspension manufacturers on the market. On top of this, the bike comes with Nissin brakes and Metzler Torrens tires on 19-inch front and 17-inch rear tubeless spoked wheels, so quite a lot of bang for your buck overall. The seat height is 810 millimeters, and the fuel tank holds 18 liters, giving you a decent range of touring. The 7-inch TFT display offers Bluetooth connectivity, basic navigation, as well as a tire pressure monitoring system, something that a KTM 890 doesn't come with till this day. You also get features like switchable traction control and ABS, auxiliary lights, crash guards, a center stand, a luggage rack, adjustable windscreen, and even a full HD forward-facing camera as standard, which basically serves as a dash cam and starts automatically when the engine fires up. That is an insane list of features for a motorcycle at a European price of 6,600 euros with VAT included. In conclusion, while the Voge 525 DSX might not be my personal choice, it offers a lot of features for its price point. If you're new to touring and want a brand new bike with a warranty as opposed to something like a used Japanese motorcycle, it's definitely worth considering. However, if you're looking for something with more off-road capability or higher quality materials, you might want to explore other options, maybe the Voge 800 Rally, or maybe something smaller like the CFMoto 450 MT, which is the next motorcycle on our list.
It is an insanely rainy day and we are testing the CFMoto Ibex 450 MT. Considering that we are with the factory tires, I can't really risk crashing the motorcycle, so I'll do my best to take it off-road a bit. I don't know if it's got a rain motor or not. I haven't really had the chance to check it out. I just arrived not too long ago to Nordica Moto today. And I'll do my best to see if I can actually change some of the settings here. Yeah, vehicle, ABS, traction control, everything's on. Upshift alert, yeah. See, that's nice to have if you're, especially if you're a beginner. Phone stuff, settings. Oh god, I don't know if we actually have some other ride mode. You can turn the ABS on and off. I'm not gonna touch that right now considering the weather we're having today. So yeah. I never met a real adventure rider that kind of shied away from a bit of rain. Nice. The standing position on this motorcycle feels really good. That I can already tell you. And it does feel like a rally bike, so if you are planning to do a lot of off-roading, like even as this motorcycle is out of the factory right now, just feels nice. Like the first impression is really good. Like I'm not getting any sensation that this bike is, I don't know, like something what you'd expect from a Chinese product, something that feels brittle or something that'll break easily. This actually feels at least like a KTM, and I'm saying at least because meaning that it feels like a KTM, but ironically, even though it's Chinese, the quality actually feels better than what you get on something like a KTM 390 Adventure. Let's kind of attempt to turn the ABS off. Off-road, now you get the off-road mode. So when you actually press the ABS on-off button, the thing will show up that you're actually in off-road mode. So that's already a pretty cool thing, right? These are not the ideal conditions to test this motorcycle in. I am hoping to actually get the guys from Nordica to lend me this motorcycle for a day so I can do a proper review with it. But up until then, this half an hour ride we'll just have to do. So let's see what the bike can do.
So if you want to see a full review of this bike in better conditions but more aggressively tested, make sure to hit subscribe and hope to see you in that video. Now, let me give you some afterthoughts on this bike that I haven't mentioned, mostly as my underwear was already wet at this point. The 450 MT is CFMoto's answer to the lightweight adventure segment, and the most direct competitor here is the KTM 390 Adventure, and especially the more off-road ready Adventure R version. In fact, on paper, the 450 MT arguably exceeds both in off-road capability, and that's coming from someone who spent time with both KTM and Husqvarna models. Right away, the riding position feels right, the standing posture is natural, it's narrow between the knees, and it has that rally-style setup where you feel totally in control. For anyone doing long stretches of off-road or even just standing through gravel sections, that counts for a lot. Suspension is fully adjustable, meaning compression, rebound as well as damping, and it's surprisingly plush, especially considering the price point. In fact, it feels more planted than the 390 Adventure on rough stuff. You've got 21-inch front and 18-inch rear wheels, real off-road sizing, not the compromised 1917 setup you find on some entry-level ADVs. That alone puts it in another category. Factory tires are CST Dual Sport, and yeah, they're not amazing in wet weather, but they're more manageable than the Michelin Anakis the 800 MT Explorer Edition comes with. Still, for serious off-roading, you'll probably want to swap those out. The 449cc parallel twin puts out around 43 horsepower. It's not a rocket ship, but it delivers smooth and linear power, which is exactly what you want when traction is sketchy. In this weather, having that kind of predictable throttle response was actually a blessing. One thing worth noting, even though the bike has a twin-cylinder engine, the service intervals are a bit shorter than you'd normally get on a twin. According to the manual, you're looking at oil changes every 5,000 kilometers. It's not extreme, but it's something to factor in if you're planning to rack up some serious mileage. Compared to the bigger twins like the KTM 890 or the Tenere 700, where you can theoretically go 15,000 kilometers between services, it's definitely more frequent. The 450 MT uses a smaller, higher revving engine with lower oil capacity that runs hotter and harder than its bigger touring siblings. That means oil breakdowns faster, so this explains why the oil changes need to be more frequent relative to the fatter, more touring-oriented siblings. Luckily, the major valve clearance adjustment doesn't come until 40,000 kilometers. When it is due, at least the engine is reasonably accessible and there are just two cylinders under one cylinder head. The fuel tank holds 17.5 liters, and with the low fuel consumption, given the smaller engine, you're looking at well over 350 kilometers of range. More than enough for a long day of exploring without worrying about filling up. The dash is a 5-inch TFT, clear and simple, no fancy animations or gimmicks, but it gives you what you need at a glance. The switchgear is backlit, which is a small touch but genuinely useful, especially in poor lighting. No cruise control or traction control on this version, but to be honest, for off-road riding, I'm completely fine with that. As a whole, the 450 MT feels like the kind of bike that'll get more riders into adventure riding without breaking the bank. It doesn't pretend to be a Dakar machine, but it doesn't shy away from tough terrain either. This bike makes me want to take the long way back to Nordica, mostly taking the back roads on these mountains. The only thing that can make this ride even more enjoyable is the mystery bike I've been hinting at since the start of this video, and it is what I'd call the CFMoto 450 MTX or the 450 MT Rally even. It's basically the race-ready version of this motorcycle that you can't find at a dealer, and for good reason, as this bike I have tested here was tuned by Nordica Moto to race at the Red Bull Romaniacs later this year. So let's take a look at what that bike's capable of.
It's got the knobby tires as well, but I figured this would be a fun bike to test. The clutch is behaving very differently. It doesn't have the quick shifter. First thing that I noticed. All the levers and everything is set to ride mostly in standing position. This is like a proper rally bike version of the 450 MT. It's got crash bars, it's got, again, the knobby tires, different exhaust as well, different chain guard, a bunch of other stuff that the guys have mentioned, but I'll do a bunch of B-roll footage as well. yeah, like I'll make sure to kind of try to list those, because for whoever's interested in this bike, this is pretty much the way you can set it up yourself. I mean, the guys from CFMoto are a lot more enduro oriented, so they're doing a lot of off-road riding, and this is their bike, and they've done the conversion. Look at this cool ass handlebar, the way it even looks. Like, I think it's got mostly the add-ons you would get from CFMoto, probably, like the way it looks. Obviously this handlebar is a bit more custom. Now on this thing right now, the throttle, it's got a big play. Like it's something I really got to get used to still. Like there is a big play, as well as the clutch disengages only like at the end, which is like, I think it's made so you can just like easily kind of just snap it, like just snap when you're shifting off-road. Okay, we've heated the engine up, so we've got better engine temperature, so we can kind of rev it a bit now. Oh, it sounds raspier. I like it, but you can tell that it's a 450. Like the horsepower is just not there for on-road use. Like you really are going to be touring with this motorcycle, kind of just similarly to the way you do it on a dual sport bike. Just get from A to B, kind of just to get from one forest to the other forest, pretty much like that. So this kind of, it's a rally bike. Let's just stick to that. I'm not even going to call it an adventure bike. With the setup that this thing has, with the knobby tires as well, this is 90% off-road oriented and 10% on-road. As you may know, knobby tires behave really badly on asphalt. They wear really fast. Obviously there's a lot less surface area touching the asphalt. Braking, acceleration, everything will wear on these tires. So I'd say this is for people that already have something like the 800 MTX or a proper 800 MT, or something that's even more kind of on-road, adventure focused, and they're looking to get something to play around in the dirt with more, but still kind of be able to do touring around their home country. And I can put both my legs down. It is a narrow motorcycle. It genuinely just feels like a large motocross bike, but not the way the Norden does. It's a lot narrower. I can really kind of grasp. I kind of grab the whole motorcycle with my knees, even while sitting down. And we're out here. You can see the statue of Jesus up there, and we're heading in that direction. Let's see if I'm going to be a bit more mellow oriented. I'm on an off-road bike. I'm going to be everything but mellow. I can turn off the traction control and ABS, but I'm not going to do that just yet. Kind of want to get a feel of what the tires can take, as well as the motorcycle, kind of stopping power as well as throttle. Plus, I don't want to kick up rocks when I have cars around me as well, because this is like, that was ouch. Long press, ABS off, traction control off, rear wheel traction control off as well. Yep, I can feel it. I can definitely feel it. Ooh, look at the mirror. I need my motocross skills back, because I honestly got really used to riding a bike with a lot of electronics. I rarely turn them off on the Norden, and I haven't ridden my gas since last year. We're still early on in the motocross season as well, but given the dry conditions, I can kind of say that I prefer riding the 800 MTX in these off-road conditions. I'm pretty sure that you can get like a full-on off-road kit for that bike as well. Like this 450, it's really limited in terms of horsepower. It's comfortable to stand on. That's something I gotta point out, like relative to the 800 MTX as well. Standing up on this thing feels a lot more comfortable. Guessing because it is wobbling, my phone's kind of dropping. Someone's gonna have to tighten that quad lock mount. I am missing power though. Like, honestly, again, this is off-road build, off-road setup, and I just came with the MTX from here, which was like a full-on kind of, not, it was the factory setup of the MTX, and honestly I preferred playing around with that. Like, this is still fun, and I low-key have that smile beneath my nose, but I somehow enjoyed riding with the MTX here more. Maybe it's because it was my first ride of the day. I am getting a bit exhausted, not gonna lie. But there we go, when we get to these narrower sections, you can throw around this bike a lot easier than you can do it with the MTX. I don't know what the weight difference is between the two bikes, but this one definitely does a really good job. You can balance it, and I intuitively stick my foot out, my leg out, as I would on a motocross bike. I should really be wearing motocross boots on this motorcycle right now. That's the way I feel it. It feels like I'm riding an enduro bike. Whoop! Lost the back end there. I gotta show you guys. Yoo-hee! Look, sheepies. Hello. We don't want to scare you. Oh yeah, but again, if you're looking for these types of adventures, I'm sorry for scaring you guys. It was really not my intention. These are the types of things that you can get. That view, these little friends that get really scared from these bikes. Hello, buddies. And that view, along with this view. But again, for this price, I keep talking about the price because these CFMotos are obviously a lot better priced relative to something like a KTM or a Voge even. Här är tjejen! Nimrod! Oh, that sound. So angry. I think it's the same crew that was with the MTX. Oh, that clutch setup really came in handy just now. Really just gotta flick it a bit. And it definitely does what it's supposed to do. Have my legs planted into the ground. A bit of a full throttle in second gear. Yep, and we've made it up to the plateau. But because we have a bit of extra time with this bike, we're gonna go out to the statue with this thing as well to see how it behaves off-road at higher speeds. Because at the end of the day, like, rally bikes are riding at higher speeds. I'm gonna slow down because these guys don't really know that I'm coming. Don't want to give them a lot of dust. Still want to be courteous, and I don't want to be hated by tourists nor locals. Hungarian tourists, hello. I'm standing straight up, and it's just comfortable to ride in this obviously kind of just beaten path, somewhat beaten path. Not exactly off-road, but again, this thing was built to tackle, like, again, dual sport stuff. But in those situations, I don't see why people wouldn't just buy a more off-road oriented bike. I don't want to bother the guys, the tourists, let them take their photos. You can see there's people up there as well. That's pretty cool. So we're back at the heart of Jesus. But we're heading straight back down. Let's go. I don't think the guys know that there's test days going on. Let's let him. There we go. we're not bothering anyone. Oh yeah, it's got the switchback mirrors if you want to do some heavy riding. We got the switchbacks. We're not gonna use that because it's not my motorcycle. I still don't want to I don't want to risk dropping it. I'm still kind of obviously riding in a riskier way, if I can call it that. Not that I'd make a mistake in a situation like this, but you never know when a deer will pop out or something, some other small animal. And we have the ABS off as well. So for this amount of money, the amount of fun you're getting, like you're paying to get something fun, right? And I can comfortably say this thing definitely gets that job done. If you are looking for fun, for not a lot of money, then you really gotta opt for one of these motorcycles. I know that the extras don't cost as much either, not as much as with the KTM power parts or anything you can get on a Yamaha. If you want to slap on a Krapovich exhaust, that's going to cost you a lot extra. I don't even know what exhaust we got on here, but we were talking about it with Alpar, and he was saying that I think it's like the factory kind of tuning exhaust, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll take a look at it. I'll do some B-roll footage and we'll check it out later. Hello boys and girls and non-binaries. Shake it. Hey. Hello. I'm sorry for scaring you. So many small sheep. It's behaving so well, man. It will be hard to make a verdict at the end. Both bikes, like so far, the 800 MTX, as well as what I'd categorize as the 450 MTX, or either way, the off-road version of the 450 MT.
So, a few afterthoughts regarding the bike. Slightly unrelated to performance, but definitely worth mentioning for convenience. It's got a quad-lock wireless charging system installed, which, as you can tell, is ideal for me since I am using the same setup personally on my Husqvarna Norden. If you are looking to get one of these off of Amazon, I'd really appreciate it if you considered using my affiliate link, which you can find down in the description. I have been given the opportunity to take this bike out twice, so stick around to see me attempting to abuse the bike a bit on the local motocross track. As you might have noticed, the 450 MT comes in two color schemes, the first one being what CFMoto calls Zephyr Blue, and this one here is Tundra Gray. Which one do you prefer? I kinda like both, so I'm having a hard time deciding which one fits my style better. I couldn't get a full list of all the accessories the bike's been kitted out with to make it more race ready than the stock version, but some of the upgrades are pretty obvious. The most noticeable change is in the tires. These are full-on aggressive knobby off-road tires by Mitas called the Enduro Trail XT Plus. They do make this thing ideal for a rally event like Red Bull Romaniacs. That said, I had to be extra careful with them on pavement because they are super slippery. I think they're rated around 80% off-road, 20% on-road. Beyond that, it's got a bunch of protective gear, obvious stuff like upper and lower crash bars, a heavy-duty skid plate, but also protection for the brake calipers, brake fluid reservoir, a different chain guard, headlight protection, and even a front harness you can grab onto when the bike's down or just needs pulling out of a ditch. God knows that'll happen a lot at Red Bull Romaniacs. It also has heavy-duty handguards, switchback mirrors that fold in for off-road riding, and an aftermarket tire pressure monitoring system that looks a lot like mine, so I am guessing you could grab that off of Temu or AliExpress pretty easily. I've already mentioned the wider handlebar with its cool pattern texture and the bar risers, both of which help when you're riding in a standing position off-road. And finally, to top it all off, it's got this dual-port aftermarket exhaust. On top of adding a couple of horsepower and shedding a bit of weight, it just makes the bike sound way better than the stock 450 MT. So let's get on to the motocross track.
It's definitely that way. So yeah, let's have a bit of fun. Off-road, traction controls off, as well as ABS. Yep, there we go. Where else to test this bike than on a motocross track? Again, I haven't ridden this track in a long time, so you guys gonna be mellow about it. On the berm this weekend. Nice. Any more step downs? Funny, I remember this track having more jumps rather than just being mostly just up and down hills. I didn't want to, it didn't bottom out, which I'm happy about. It is cutting off some of the power. Maybe it's sensing that the rear wheels leaving the ground, kind of trying to make sure that the bike doesn't whiskey throttle out from under me. That's just my theory, I guess. Ah, crap. We're definitely testing the bash plate as well this way. I mean, just as a disclaimer from the guys, for the guys from Nordica, I'm not riding this the same way I'd ride my own motocross bike. Doesn't mind going up in second gear. It's fun to know that this bike can handle it. But you can feel that it wasn't really made for the track. Like, these suspensions are really good, but at the end of the day, it's not a motocross bike. But
the suspension is the same as on the stock 450 MT, so the KYB forks along with the shock. It could probably use something more fit for purpose, but for mostly off-road rally riding, this definitely gets the job done 90% of the time. The only time I really noticed the lack of stiffer suspension was when I landed flat off the jumps. I didn't go for actual landings. I'm not about to push a race-ready bike that isn't lined to its absolute limit, but I definitely gave it a decent run for its money. It did bottom out a couple of times on those landings, but hey, it is a 175 kilo bike, or about 385 pounds, with a 17-liter fuel tank, or 4.5 gallons. That's not even counting the extra 10 pounds I gained over Easter, so I'm not really sure what I was expecting here. That said, the bike held up surprisingly well on the track, and it was a ton of fun riding it here, especially considering this is the type of track where I usually bring a dirt bike that weighs almost half as much as this little whale of a bike.
overall, my conclusion is that the bike can't really handle any type of terrain around here.
Alright, it's been a fun experience testing these bikes. A big thanks again to CFMoto for hosting these events, but let's wrap this up with the final ranking. Remember that this is my personal verdict after riding all 6 of these bikes, and just to make it a bit more dramatic, we're going in reverse order. Starting with, in 6th place, the Voge 525 DSX. Now this definitely isn't a bad bike, but compared to the others in this lineup, it just didn't click for me. The build quality didn't give me the same level of confidence, and the overall design just didn't speak to me. That said, it does have some unique features, like the integrated front camera, which none of the others have, along with a bunch of accessories at a really low price point, but cool tech alone doesn't win shootouts. For me, it ends up at the bottom of the list. 5th place goes to the stock CFMoto 450 MT. It's not a bad bike by any means, it's actually a really solid entry-level adventure machine. But for someone like me who already rides bigger, heavier bikes, I just can't really see where this would fit in my garage as it is. However, if you're new to adventure riding, or if you're after something light and manageable, it's a fantastic starting point. I just personally prefer something a bit more hardcore. Fourth place, the 700 MT. Honestly, this bike surprised me. I rode it on a rainy racetrack and it handled way better than I expected. It's comfortable, and the fact that you're sitting more in the bike than on it makes it stable and also suitable for shorter riders. And for the price, it offers a lot. But here's the thing. If you're already looking at the 700, you're not that far off in price from one of the 800s. This evidently depends on where you are located, so best check the prices with your local dealer. So unless budget is really tight, I just save up a bit more and go for one of the 800s. And that said, third place goes to the 800 MT Explorer Edition. This thing is a beast of a touring bike. The giant dashboard is awesome and it's super comfy on long rides. It's clearly built for long-distance comfort rather than technical off-roading. If I were planning a multi-country trip tomorrow, this would definitely be the bike I'd choose. It's also way better priced than its European or Japanese counterparts and comes with a bunch of accessories straight from the factory. Second place goes to the 450 MT Rally Edition, aka the mystery bike at the end. This thing is just fun. Knobby tires, proper protection, rally-style upgrades. It transformed the stock 450 into a proper little mountain goat. It's light, agile, and honestly, I'd love to have one of these as a second bike. Just to rip through trails or go on multi-day rides in the mountains. If you ever want to sign up for Red Bull Romaniacs or any other similar event that caters to heavier off-road machines, this could actually be a viable entry bike. And in first place, no surprise here, is the CFMoto Ibex 800 MTX. This thing just ticks all the boxes. It's got power, comfort, proper off-road capability, and still comes in at a really competitive price. It's a bike that can do serious distance, hit proper trails, and still be fun to ride on tarmac. For me, it sits almost on par with my Husqvarna Norden Expedition. I'm still keeping the Norden, mostly because I love how it looks and I'm a fan of the brand itself, but if I had to choose a backup or replacement, the MTX would definitely be it. So that's my ranking of these 6 Chinese adventure bikes. If you'd rank them differently or think I've lost my mind, please let me know in the comments. If you'd like to see me review the Covey or other adventure motorcycles in general on the channel, you know what to do.
Yeah guys, if you found this video to be informative or entertaining and help you decide in buying one of these bikes, please hit that like button, subscribe button, press the notification bell, you know the drill. Check affiliate links, Patreon, buy me a coffee, all the other jazz, and hope to see you guys in the next video.